Jackals TV is back on the air after the Christmas break, and the Jackals are happy to return to the ice in the D Division after spending a series of games in the C Division prior to Christmas and after the tiering games. So their unsuccessful results in the C Division have resulted in them being moved back down to the D Division, where they've spent most of their 10 to 12-year career in the ASHL. And they will be playing a team they've probably played more than anybody else in the history of the league for the Jackals. They'll be taking on the Minnesota Nighthawks in their new highlighter colored yellow jerseys on the right side of your screen. Jackals, of course, in the white jerseys on the left side of the screen. As per usual, the Jackals will be without a number of players. Today they'll be missing Jason, Gary Pabla, David Atkinson, and Lloyd, all missing today. Spares called up to fill in Rob Lawrence and a new spare, Shane Hainsworth. Trevor gets the start in net, and with that, let's head to the first period. We're going to start this one off with Chris Marshall winning a puck along the wall, stepping out in front with it, trying to put it on net with the backhand. It's going to get rung around, and Bob's going to hold it in, and he's going to find Chris Weeger in the middle of the ice, who's going to throw that on net, low blocker side, but the goalie kicks it out to the corner. Next we see Jer find Shane slashing up the middle. He's going to tip that past the defender, race in, try to pull it to the backhand, but the goalie gets a piece of the puck and a piece of Shane and sends him flying, and no shot is gotten. But there's a shot here. Jer gets one shot, then a second shot, and then a third shot. 3 tries off that face-off that John threw the puck towards the net, and the Nighthawks goalie keeps them all out. Next we see a point shot from Darryl that Chris Weeger tips, but it just goes wide off the tip. Here's Chris again, and he's racing down the left wall, and he's going to push this puck back to Darwin, who's coming right to the front of the net, throws it on the net, and another low blocker save from the goalie. Nighthawks looking to have some opportunity at the other end, but instead that puck gets blocked by Jared. It's going to turn into a 2-on-1, and he's going to go to the net and get another chance, but that hops over his stick. So we go scoreless to the second period. And it looks like we're going to finally see some Nighthawks offense, but instead Shane steals that puck from the defender, goes all alone on a breakaway, makes a move and slides it through the 5-hole, and in his first ever game for the Jackals, he opens the scoring, and it's now 1-0. Jackals are finally starting to convert on their multitude of chances. Here we see Chris Stuhar get the shaft of his stick on that, deflected backwards, and then Rob's going to turn it over along the wall, slide it across to Aaron, who sweeps it past the goalie, and quickly the Jackals have started to put goals into the net. It's now 2-0. We're finally going to see some Nighthawks offense, and it's going to be off a turnover this time by the Jackals. Bruce puts that up in the middle, it gets blocked, and that player is going to deke around Darryl before getting a shot off that Trevor saves. So here we see the Jackals on the forecheck, and that puck's going to get turned over. John's going to find Shane out front. He's going to risk that on net, and now he has 2 goals in this period, and the Jackals have stretched their lead to 3-0. Jackals are looking for number 4. Here's a puck thrown up the middle that Aaron's going to tip up to Rob, and he's going to drive wide with it while Stuhar goes in the net. Aaron comes in that soft spot, receives the pass, puts it over the net and off the glass. So back the other end. Here come the Nighthawks looking for their first goal. And that player is going to go around Bruce, come in front, backhand on net, but Trevor's there to make the save. And then the follow-up, the Nighthawks player just harmlessly sweeps that to the corner. So again, back to the other end. Here's Chris Weeger in all alone. Looks to go high blocker, but the goaltender makes a save. There's a mad scramble in front. The puck gets reset by Darryl out to Bruce on the point. Throws it towards the net, but the goalie swallows that up for a whistle. Jackals on the forecheck again, which produced their last goal here. Chris Marshall cuts that off, puts it down low to Chris Weeger, who slides it across to Darwin, has nothing but net, but can't make contact to put it into the yawning cage. So play continues. That line is still out there, and Chris Weeger's going to slide this past the defenseman, and Darwin's going to race onto it, in alone in the breakaway. This time he tries to go to the blocker, but the goalie makes a save. What can he do to beat this goaltender? Third period now, still 3-0. Darryl and Shane make this little exchange with the puck. Shane loses it and has to retrieve it from the corner, gives it to Darryl. He's going to walk out in front, high slot. Has a good look there, but the goaltender makes the save. Nighthawks are trying to find a way to put one on the board. This player's going to weave his way through the zone, set up a screen with 3 players there, and that's a tricky little save for Trevor to make through those 3 players. little later, Bob looks like he's in trouble down low, slips out, and then he's going to push this puck up to Darwin, who's going to come around that player and turn it into a 2-on-1, slide it across to Chris Weeger. It gets the puck up in the air, but the goaltender makes a save. And what can this line do to get on the board? They've had multiple chances. Here we see, again, here's Shane looking for the hat trick. He's going to pick up that pass from John. He's going to go around the defender, get a good shot on net, but it's turned aside. Here comes this line again. Chris Weeger at center, pushing the defense back, slides it through to Darwin. He's in alone again, tries to get the goaltender moving and put a 5-hole, but again, she makes another save. And as you see Darwin going dejectedly to the bench, there's going to be that turnover at center. In on a breakaway to the backhand. Trevor stays with it, and then he's there for the rebound and a second rebound. So a few good saves there to keep the 0 on the board. Here you see the Nighthawks player win that draw clean, but it goes right out to center, and Chris Marshall picks it up, goes wide with it, cuts back in front, and the loose puck is just sitting there for Chris Weeger to shovel into the net, and this line finally finds a way to get themselves on the board, and it took a setup basically from the Nighthawks at the opposite end of the ice to start this play going, but they are on the board, and it's now 4-0. This line remains on the ice, and there Chris Weeger intercepts that weak pass and races down the ice with it 2-on-1, slides it across to Darwin, who's had multiple shots on net. This time he beats her on the blocker side, and it's yeast mode activated. With just a few seconds left in this game, the Jackals are going to find one more scoring opportunity. Chris Duhar on a nice pass from Rob, gets a shot low blocker side, but gets turned aside. And that's the end of this game. It's a 5-0 victory for the Jackals. And the Jackals look energized to be back in the D Division playing familiar foes. Let's have a look at the stats for the game. There you see Shane with his 2 goals in his first game with the Jackals. Chris Weeger, goal and assist, and Darwin finally getting one on the Nighthawks goaltender. And with that, we'll have a look at the overall stats now for this season. Rob remaining at the top of the table. Darwin and Chris moving up there with some goals here today. And Jeremy in the green jacket watch has his plus-minus headed in the right direction after this game. So that's it for this one, folks. The next game is against the Blades Hockey Club, the team that was also up in the C Division with the Jackals that got moved down to the D. So they played them a few times this year, and it'll be a rematch between those two teams. We'll see you then.